Why do we gather like for birthdays? Well, there's always cake and ice cream. Why do we gather on Sundays for Sunday dinner?
Yeah.
Why do we gather? Like, I've never been to an event where people don't serve something.
Event.
A good event. Yeah. A meaningful, a memorable, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yes.
Like, I've never been to one where food hasn't been involved.
Welcome back to Weddings Unwrapped, the show where we dive into the stories behind the business that started from nothing but a dream. I'm Daniel Driggs, and today I have a special guest with me, Ashley Shepard, the original owner of Sheps Catering, or only owner of Sheps Catering, and then now owns the beautiful wedding venue, Riverbridge Event Center in Springville, Utah, and is, for me, has been my mentor throughout starting Crisp in Northampton House. And yes, and I call her all the time and just want to bawl my eyes out. It's all of it. So I'm really grateful that you came on this podcast. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
I think one of the things that the listeners need to know about you as the host is in everyone's entrepreneurial journey, I think the challenging piece of getting started in entrepreneurship is the fear of having to be perfect. Yeah. And one of the things that I love about you is you just take action. No. This is like such a compliment. No, it's such a compliment that you're not afraid to take action. Yeah. That you might not have it all figured out quite yet, but you're going to act and you're going to move and you're going to figure it out along the way. And I think that is a critical component of being an entrepreneur, is not being debilitated by fear and just going for it. And look what it's been able to provide for you. So I am super excited. I admire you, and I'll interview you today.
Yes, I love it. I'm fine with that. That's perfect. No, that brings us basically to our first thing, is going back to mentorship and acting and everything else. You've really mentored me in different ways than the 100 other people you mentor. Because for you, what I've been able to observe or witness is people flock to you. People love being around you. People love learning from you. And you're so willing to help. Talk to me about mentorship. Talk to me about why you like mentoring, or why you're okay with even mentoring some of your competitors. Because I own Crisp when you own the Sheps Catering, and you brought me under your wing. You just called me out of the blue, and you're like, "Hey, I own this company. You want to come to this party?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love that." I know no one. And it was so cool. So yes, talk to me about mentorship.
I think you're kind to call it mentorship, but I don't really see it as such, because I think when you're in the same space, we really are just colleagues. And I think that there's things that I learned from you, and there's things you learned from me. And before I started Sheps Catering, I'll go back just a little bit so you can see where
I love this.
Where kind of, I don't want to say mentorship, but kind of where this camaraderie of colleagues kind of came into play for me specifically. But when I was about to start a catering company 15 years ago, the only catering company I even knew was Culinary Crafts. And I knew that they were just like this amazing catering company that was super successful. And my cousin, well, this is kind of a long story, but my cousin dated one of the craft boys in high school. So
That's
they both went,
deal.
Yeah, right. They went to Spanish Fork High School. And so I knew that Emily would know Mary Crafts.
Oh.
And so when I was talking to Emily, I was like, "Hey, I really think I might start a catering company." And she was like, "I could get you a meeting with Mary Crafts." And at that time, 15 years ago, I was just like, wait, she is the goddess. She is still. Yes. I shouldn't say she was.
Yeah, no, she
still is.
It's
the
still
goddess
amazing.
of what a culinary expert is. And so I went over to Culinary Crafts 15 years ago. It was actually Mary and Caleb Crafts that agreed to meet with me. And I remember her looking me just like you and I are looking. Yeah. And she was like, "Ashley, you need to decide right now when enough is going to be enough." And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" And she was like, "I know you, and I can see in the 5 minutes of meeting with you, you will create $1 million plus company.
Wow.
But is that what you want? And do you want everything that comes with that? And at the time I was like, I have no idea what this lady means. Because we had like just barely started. I think I was like 6 months in when I met with her.
Yeah.
And I had done maybe like $10,000 worth of revenue. And I was just like, I am on top of the world,
15 events.
Yeah, 15 events, for $10,000. And so I remember just that interaction with her of being like, this lady believes in me. Like she saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself at that time. Nor did I even understand that could be a like capability for me.
Yeah.
And I remember just feeling like they had taken me under their wing. And anytime that I had questions or that I served raw chicken to 200 people, like all these mistakes, all these mistakes that I had made, I just felt like I had one person in my corner that I could call and be like, I did this wrong. I screwed up.
Yeah.
Like, how do I recover, or can I recover, or what do I do here, or how do I do this? And there was a time where, catering or Cater Source is like really popular.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Like what is it?
Convention.
I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah.
It's like a really popular convention for caterers.
Yeah.
And I remember I had finally made like enough money to take my team members down to Cater Source. And so I had reached out to Culinary and was like,
Was it in Florida?
No, we actually went to Vegas.
Okay, fine.
Well, I've been to multiple, but the one I'm
fine.
talking about, I was in Vegas. And I was by myself at the time. And I had reached out to Mary and was like, hey, are you taking the team down? And they were. And they invited me to their team dinner. They paid for my dinner. They let me ride in their car. Like, it was the strangest thing.
That's cool.
That I just was like, wait, these people are including me when, one, they didn't have to. And two, I was like kind of a beggar. Like I was like, can you please help me?
Can you feed me?
Yeah. Can you show me how to run a catering company? Yes. And so I think that's probably like one of the first things that I saw in terms of a young entrepreneur, that they led the way for me to see what it was like to have colleagues that we didn't necessarily compete in the same demographic.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like really high end. We were like mid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we weren't like, it wasn't, our clientele wasn't the same. But essentially running a catering company is the same.
Yeah.
Like we have different things, but the basics were very similar.
Same staffing, same
systems, same invoicing, things like that. And so, I grew to love them and their ability to look after me. And I really needed that as a young entrepreneur. And so I feel like as I gained experience in my own field, there have been multiple, whether that's venues or whether that's catering companies, there's been multiple times where I've had to reach out to quote unquote like competitors and ask for their advice, ask, how do you handle this situation when a client does this, or what are your policies for this? And I think you would be shocked at how many people want the camaraderie, but it's us. Like we inhibit the love and the union between competitors. And I don't know if it's like we get insecure or we get in our own head about like they'll reject us or whatever that looks like. But the people that I've reached out to have been more than willing to just offer love and support. And so I just feel like that's what's expected of me in return.
Have you ever been shut down? You call someone and you say, hey, do you have, and you don't have to name names, but
we'll point them out on this podcast.
Good. Has anyone ever been like, no, I'm not sharing those secrets with you or anything like that? Or is everyone just nice, willing to help out?
Honestly, like I haven't had a bad experience. And even
me either, which is crazy.
No, like that's what I'm saying though, is I think sometimes we hesitate. We are the ones that hesitate because we're afraid of that rejection. Or
afraid. In my case, a lot of the times, I don't want to show everyone the skeletons in my closet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's like I don't care if they reject me. I want them to think I'm cool.
Yeah.
And I am so weak and I have so many flaws and I just don't want to ask.
Yeah. You don't want to tell them you serve 200 people raw chicken?
Yes.
Yeah, I know what that's like. Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
it's so cool. And it's cool that everyone in entrepreneurship, everyone has failed over and over and over again. And I love the quote about like Tiger Woods has missed more putts than I will ever miss.
Yeah.
And that's really, if that is your metric for success, is how many times you failed versus how many times you succeeded, or how many times you failed with the purpose being to succeed.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a purpose to succeed, you'll fail and fail and fail and fail with no purpose. But if you fail while you're trying to succeed and are willing to fail and willing to get messy or whatever, it turns out, and everyone has those failing moments that have made it. Yeah. People that haven't made it are not willing to be humble to, any of that.
Well, and the mistakes that we make in our career are really what launch us forward in our career. I can't tell you probably any of the successes in my career, but I could name the top 10 mistakes. And I think it's because I realized like what I needed to change, either as an owner, as an operator, as a boss, like whatever that is, like I realized what I needed to change about myself and my company in those mistakes. But like, I don't know how many thousands of weddings we've had that are successful or that are amazing or that wrote these great reviews. Like I don't remember those, but I do remember those like key components or those key mistakes that I've made and how that changed a big portion of who I am and who I needed to be as an entrepreneur. And so I think we can look at mistakes like a lot of different ways. But I think we need to just look at them as like, this is the greatest teacher that God has given us is the ability to choose and the ability to make mistakes. Yeah. Like I can't even tell you how many businesses I've like started and shut down. Because they just didn't work out, or how many times like I've cried myself to sleep because we really screwed up on that wedding and I wanted it so badly to be perfect and it just wasn't, you know? And it's in those moments that it's like, okay, what needed to change? Because if it happens once, it should never happen again. Yes. And that's how we learn and how we grow and how we evolve as entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go into a little bit of business partnership, but before I want to ask one more question on that is, what do you do when you're training someone and they make those same mistakes? Exactly what you're saying, where we should never make those mistakes again. But where is the balance that you see in training a new person on those same mistakes? Like for example, it's like, you've made the mistake of sending raw chicken or whatever, and your new head chef comes in and you are trying to trust, but you also don't want to send a bunch of hot or raw chicken. What's your balance there? And do you feel like it's essential to allow your employees and partners and business partners and everything to fail in the same way you have failed? At what degree? Walk me through that.
Yeah. I think that's something I've had to learn over time. I think as an owner, we do create these like very, very high, unrealistic expectations of ourselves that sometimes can bleed into our employees. And I think early on, that was unfair for my employees, that because I didn't allow myself grace, I was just not allowing them to have grace. But what I've learned over time is that with new employees especially, expectations have to be very clear. And not even clear verbally, but clear, written out, documented of like these are your roles and responsibilities, and this is what I expect from you. Yeah. Because if you don't have that right from the get-go, I think the challenging piece is when they do make a mistake, then what are the consequences? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Or if they repeatedly continue to make that mistake, then what action needs to be taken? But what I have found is if I set very clear expectations from the get-go, that mistake might happen once. And then we come together and we say, okay, what happened? Yes. But also like, what is your role in this? And what is your solution to this moving forward? Because I think just like as a parent to a child, it is a boss to an employee in this sense, that like we can't always teach our kids what to do.
Yeah.
We can't. Like we can't be like, okay, you spilled the milk, you know, so like go clean it up. You're like, that's how I would act.
Yes.
But it's like
you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
But instead
like
it's
other
like
parents act
how
like that.
Yeah. How do we empower our employees
Yeah.
to come up with solutions themselves? Because if you as the business owner are just constantly telling them what to do.
Yeah.
Okay, now do this. Okay, now you should have done this. Now you should have done this. It doesn't allow for any autonomy in the job or any responsibility.
Yeah.
Because now they're just like under you,
Yeah.
you know, where
Yes.
it's like, how do we help our employees rise
And
to be equal?
Yes.
So it's no longer like a boss and employer. It's like, no, we work together.
Yeah.
We are a team. I might own this company, but my role here is the same as yours, which is we're going to create flawless events
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Our purpose is the same. Our titles mean nothing
Yeah.
if we don't work together.
Yeah.
And so I think I've had to learn that over time is just, and honestly, all my employees, well, I should say the majority. I've had a couple instances that like I wasn't my best self and I didn't handle it correctly. But I would say the majority of my employees, like they would tell you it's when you work together as a team that there really is like no bad feelings, no bad culture because we all have the same objective. Yeah. And so I'm just not really one to like lose my mind,
Yes.
you know, or go berserk on someone.
Yes.
And so I think it's just creating that respect between each other because employees that respect you, they don't want to let you down.
Yeah.
They don't want to make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
But how do we create that respect?
Yes.
You know, and it's not a dictatorship. It's just I respect you and you respect me because the expectations of what the common goal is as this team are very clear.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that's really important in the wedding industry is we work with such young people.
Yeah.
Because it's the hosts are young, the servers are young. And so we get to be a part of building that next generation of workers, which I find so fun.
And they're brilliant.
Yes.
They really are brilliant. Their creativity.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I cannot believe the things that they come back and say, Ashley, have you ever thought about this? Or have you ever thought about this? Or could we change this? And I'm like, I am old. I would have never thought of that.
Yes.
But they are actually the perfect prototype for our clients because they're that age.
Yes.
Or
in 2 years,
coming of
or
that
in
age.
2 years from now,
so like,
they're going to get married. They're going to have those. Yes, it's so awesome. And I love being a part of a workforce that we get to kind of help out that group of people. I find it awesome. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit of partnering as a business versus solo entrepreneurship. You now, was Sheps a partnership and Riverbridge, or walk me through that?
Yeah. So I started Sheps solo 15 years ago. And then when we were going, let me kind of tell you the story. So
I was gonna say,
Sheps was growing at a rapid rate. And I have a commercial kitchen that it's attached to my house.
Love it.
It's not a commercial kitchen anymore. Now it's a hunting room with lots of animals. But back then it was a commercial kitchen. And I operated out of that commercial kitchen for every wedding.
Okay.
I have literally the best pictures of like, after I had my fourth baby, he was like 2 weeks old, but I had a wedding. So he's like strapped onto me while I'm like chopping lettuce. Like it was a grind. It was a grind.
The best.
But, or like I had one of those little portable
or 3
cribs.
weeks earlier, or 3 weeks earlier, you're 9 months pregnant.
Pregnant. Portable cribs, you know, like in the commercial kitchen, like just the American dream of trying to make it work. But it was growing at a rate that this smaller kitchen just could not keep up with. And so my husband and I had this idea of like, we need to buy a commercial kitchen or build one out. But when I looked at it, I mean, it was over $1 million to build out a commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
So we thought, what if we built a wedding venue and we just had a larger kitchen inside the wedding venue, and it was kind of like a double income for us. We would, we would
have
get
the catering and you have the venue.
Yeah. So we had kind of been playing with that idea, and one of our friends, a close family friend of ours, his name's Brad, He is a serial entrepreneur, amazing guy that just is
Loves it.
Oh yeah, like he loves business, but he also, his kind of like talent is numbers, financing. He just can run performas like nobody. And so I had just kind of been bouncing these ideas off him and like, what do you think? And he was like, well, why don't you just bring me a business plan and I'll kind of see what I think and maybe I could find you an investor, because he knew a lot of people in the business world. And so I was like, okay. So we kind of brought him this plan of, I did all this market research of all these venues. Speaking of like people giving out data, I would like call all these venues and be like, could you tell me approximately how many weddings you do a month? And they just would tell me.
There you go.
Like they were awesome.
Yes.
And so I had all this data and I came to his house.
Cool.
It was like on a Sunday afternoon. I'll never forget this. And I like stood up like I was like giving a presentation.
Yeah, you have your slideshow.
Yeah,
in the
I was just like so
background.
pumped. Like I was like, and this is what it's going to be. And I think we could do this. And I think I could do this. And because at the time, like I didn't know he was interested.
Yes.
So I was just like, I really think I could make this work. It's going to cost this much money, but I think the return will be good. And so after I was done, he just kind of like stared at me and he didn't say anything. But you know, when people kind of smirk, like you're just like, oh, great, I'm an idiot.
That was cute.
Yeah, you're cute. Actually, he probably didn't think I was cute. He's like, you're ugly. And so anyway, he was like, I'll partner with you 50-50. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And so a long story short, we ended up becoming business partners. And he ended up being a business partner on Sheps as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it ended up that if we were going to do it, we were just going to be 50-50 straight across the board. And so for 2 years, we ran Riverbridge and people had to use Sheps Catering if they booked at Riverbridge. And what we were finding was, well, two things. There's a two-part process, and this will kind of lead into like what led us to change, was people wanted choices.
Yeah.
Our clients want choices. And so there was a fraction of the clients that would have booked at Riverbridge, but didn't because they had to use Sheps Catering. And they didn't like that. And at the time, I didn't have an outside food policy in place. And here's why. Because Sheps was catering at all these other venues in Utah.
Yeah.
And so we were operating the kitchen. So we couldn't. I couldn't have another caterer come into my kitchen when we're prepping food to go off-site.
Yes.
And so, so long story short, it got to a point where I was working a lot. I had great employees too. This is not to say that we didn't have amazing employees, because we had hired a chef originally when we built Riverbridge, who I love and adore. And he ended up quitting because, I mean, probably for multiple reasons, but one of those reasons was he was overworked. And I didn't know what I didn't know at the time, right? I didn't know what it was like to have a chef because I was doing everything prior to that.
Yes.
And I think the challenging piece where I made a mistake is I put a lot of things on his plate at one time and wasn't eliminating certain things.
Yeah.
And so, was it freeing some of my time? Of course. But what I didn't realize is it was sacrificing things in his life.
Yeah.
Where he was working the 80, plus hours a week. And that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for anybody who wants a life, who wants a family, who wants children,
Yeah.
So he ended up quitting. And after he quit, we hired another chef. And I love him and he's awesome. But even with the amazing employees, it was just a lot emotionally.
Yeah.
There's and you know this because you own a catering company.
Yes.
There's so many moving pieces and parts to running that on top of running a venue that it just got really challenging for me emotionally. And it got to a place where I would just come home. I would come home from work because it's nights and weekends.
Yeah.
I'd come home from work at like 10 o'clock at night. And I'd have to be out the door by 6 o'clock the next morning because I got to prep.
You have a breakfast
to get like ready to go the next day, and my employees are doing all these other things too, but it's other stuff. It's not like I was cooking the food, but I was making sure the vans were packed, or I was making sure my employees were going to show up, or all all these things that it just got to a place where this would have been in 2023.
Yeah.
The fall of 2023. I remember just coming home one day and I couldn't feel. Like I didn't even know what emotion had felt like in so long.
Yeah.
That like, I honestly just looked at my husband and I was like, well, I don't even know who I am anymore. And I don't even know what we're doing anymore. I don't even know who you are. I don't even know what my kid's favorite cereal is. I don't even know how to do a load of laundry. Like it was just so emotionally draining that I think it was the first time I realized in my life, like I've gone too far. I have put myself in a place that is so unhealthy, but I didn't know how to get out of it.
Yeah.
And for months, I was in a really bad place emotionally. And I would have to go to work and I would have to be like fun, loving Ashley and like this, because that's what they expect, right?
Yes.
That's who she is. And I'd have to go there and then I'd go to the bathroom and just sob. And I have pictures of me just like sobbing on the toilet at Riverbridge, just like sitting on the toilet, just sobbing, like sending to my husband, like, I need someone to save me. I just don't know how to be saved. And I went home one night and I just was like, Brady, the only way I get out of this is if I kill myself. There's no way out. Like I have literally lodged us into a corner that I physically can't get us out of. I don't know how. And I think that was like our big aha moment of like, she's sick.
Yeah.
And we need help, and we need help in like 30 days. And if we don't make changes in 30 days, like there is going to be some serious consequences here.
Yeah.
Which there already had been, because I had been not only neglecting myself emotionally and physically, but the needs of like my marriage, the needs of my family, my kids, like spiritually, like there's so many things I just felt like were sucked out of me.
Yeah.
And so it was in 2023 that we decided to walk away from Sheps. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It was literally the hardest thing I've ever done. And it's like, until you've experienced something like that, I think it's really challenging to explain to somebody. But it was a death for me because Sheps was my baby.
Yeah.
It was the very first company that I had ever started. It was literally what made me love events.
Yeah.
Like I love the ability to feed people.
Yeah.
To gather and to have food is literally the only way you access somebody's soul.
Yeah.
You think about like, why do we gather like for birthdays? Well, there's always cake and ice cream. Why do we gather on Sundays for Sunday dinner?
Yeah.
Why do we gather? Like I've never been to an event where people don't serve something.
Event.
A good event. Yeah. A meaningful, a memorable, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yes.
Like I've never been to one where food hasn't been involved.
Yeah.
Or involved. And I think the reason that I loved catering was because it brought this connection to people that I couldn't get in any other way.
Yeah.
Like there was this fulfillment for me to like, I don't know, to get to somebody's heart through food.
Yeah.
And so when we just like cut it off abruptly, I kind of spiraled for a minute because at first I felt okay because I knew it was the right thing to do. And then I kind of went through this like sad 3 or 4 months of like, who am I? I'm a loser. I have nothing to offer the world.
I lost.
Yeah, yes. I lost. I failed. I can't believe I couldn't make it work. Like, yeah, no one's going to like me. Everyone's going to think I suck. Like, legit, I went through this crisis of like, I don't know who I am and I have nothing to offer. Then I went through this weird phase of like, I lost a lot of friends in the business world because I had nothing to offer them anymore.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So like I realized that a lot of my relationships were transactional.
Interesting.
They weren't actually meaningful.
Yeah.
And you think they are. Like you think they're meaningful and you think people love you for like who you are. The like cold hard truth is it's not that way for the majority of business relationships.
Yes.
It's transactional. What can I give you and what can you give me?
Yeah.
And so I realized I would never operate like that.
That's cool.
And so I lost a lot of friendships. And then I realized that like, where do I go from here? I was like mad. I was angry. And I was like, I can either be mad and angry or, hey, Ashley, remember you have a really beautiful venue
Yes.
that you can just go and make amazing.
Yeah.
And you can be proud of that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I had to just step away from this like pity party, poor me. I had to make a change. I didn't even lose my company. I chose to walk away from my company.
Yes.
You know, like all these different things. And so it was a great learning opportunity for me to say, I can do hard things.
Yeah.
I can walk away and I can be resilient and I can come out on top again.
Yeah.
And so it's been amazing to see how in 18 months, how it has changed Riverbridge. And like,
Totally.
completely changed Riverbridge. Not only was I able to bring in like 5 of our favorite caterers in, Utah County. Well, I guess one's out of Utah County, but in Utah.
Yeah.
So we not only like developed greater relationships with other catering companies, but I have an understanding of like what it looks like and what our caterers need at our venue.
Yeah.
So it's an expertise that like a lot of venue owners don't have.
Yes.
Where I'm like, hey, we need to make sure that our caterers are taken care of in this way and this way and this way. But also on the flip side of that, we're able to offer our clients choices.
Yeah.
So now it's like, hey, use one of our caterers or, pay this outside food fee or whatever that looks like. And so it's been able to bless Riverbridge in ways that 18 months ago I couldn't see.
Yeah.
I think that's the challenging piece of entrepreneurs in business is we get so fixated on like the problems that we're facing right now.
Yes.
If you would have told me 18 months ago, like, Ashley, let Sheps go. Look how it's going to bless Riverbridge.
Yes.
I would be like, no, like I'm holding on to my baby for dear life. Like I cannot let this die,
Yeah.
But, and all of us do it.
Totally.
However you're doing it in your business today,
Yes.
like there's something you're holding on to that you don't want to let go of.
Yes.
And all entrepreneurs do it. And I think when we can step back and be like, how is this going to bless our business in 5 years from now or in 10 years from now? I feel like now I can make changes like pretty easy because I'm like,
it's your venue.
Yeah.
It's yours. Yes.
Like we change and we adapt and maybe it doesn't work ideally how we thought it initially was. Because initially when Brad and I partnered, our goal was like, hey, we're going to build Sheps to just be a $10 to $15 million company. And it is going to be amazing for us.
Yeah, we'll move north. We'll move.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had bought property to like build this amazing commercial kitchen. Like we had done all these things.
Wow.
And so to just hurry and pivot, like that was a challenge. And I think that goes into your question about partnership.
Yes.
Is I have been blessed with one of the best partners.
Yeah.
We do not agree all the time. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I love him like a brother. He loves me like a sister. And that has been like kind of the founding piece of our partnership is we don't see eye to eye. We don't have the same talents. But when we come together and when we're both in the right mindset, we are a powerhouse.
That's awesome.
And so, when we shut down Sheps, like he wasn't in a bad place, right?
Yeah.
Like he wasn't the
He's
emotional,
like, this is fine.
like loony bin, person.
You just want to cut 150, whatever the revenue was, but it's like, oh, that's half of my money.
Yeah. And so I think there was a portion of time where he was frustrated.
Yeah.
For good reason.
Yes.
Right? He was like, well, I have to do what's best for our partnership as a whole, but I don't want this.
Yeah.
He didn't want that. Why would he want Sheps to shut down?
Yeah.
But I think that's what's unique about him is he's a visionary and he could see that, hey, this is maybe what needs to happen right now, but this isn't the end.
Yeah.
And so, I'll be forever grateful to have a partner that, hey, we're going to have hard conversations. And I hate him. He knows that.
Yes.
Like, we can have hard conversations and he knows I am just like, get me out of here. I hate it. I hate hard conversations. Yes. But I think we do them in a way that we have to do it.
Yeah.
I think pride gets in the way of a lot of partnerships.
Yes.
I think that...
I think ego, too.
Yeah,
it's I am strong. It's not being honest to your partner, whether it's a marriage or whatever. It's like, again, going back to those kind of skeletons in the closet. You don't want to be weak, but anytime in my relationship with my spouse, anytime in my relationship in my company, when I am humble and when I come to my spouse or come to my workers and just say, hey, we don't have money.
Yeah.
We're out.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah.
What do we do? It's really empowering to see their support, their love, and to accept that support and that love. Because I'm sure him saying, fine, we'll close Sheps was so empowering for you. And like, oh, maybe this is the right decision.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. He's like, okay, we'll sacrifice and this is gonna, I don't know. But yes,
Yeah.
it's empowering.
Partnership is a
yeah,
lot like marriage.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It really is, in the sense that like you're gonna hurt each other.
Yeah.
You know, like there's been times where I've said things and I'm like, I shouldn't have said that. Why did I say that? I've had to go back, or I've done things that have hurt him.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh, I can see actually how that could have hurt, or I didn't handle that situation right, or whatever it is.
Yes.
And vice versa. Like he's had to do things where he's like, hey, the way I said that, it came out different than how I meant it, or whatever it is. And think of how many times you have to do that in your marriage.
Yeah.
It's like, oh crap.
Yes.
You know, I screwed up. And good business partnerships allow there to be vulnerability and forgiveness. And I think that that's where Brad and I have allowed our partnership to work, is we both had to come to the table and be humble and say, hey, we've made a mistake. We're willing to learn from it. Let's move on. But I think as long as you can trust your business partner, I think you can work through anything. And that's what Brad has brought most to the table is I have never questioned his integrity ever.
That's
and
cool.
So I think as entrepreneurs, you know, listening to this, as you're seeking out, whether that's a capital investor or a active partner, a silent partner, whoever you're bringing onto your company, I think it's important to look at who they are as a person, how they represent themselves, but to also like talk to other people, talk to people who've worked with them. You know, have they burned other people in the past? Have they been dishonest in other dealings in business? Because people are pretty clear about who they are.
Yes.
You know, like you can hide who you think you are, but
you can lie to yourself.
Yeah.
If you're going to lie to others, you can lie to yourself.
Yeah. But I think in the business world, like it's pretty obvious who you are and what you stand for. And so that would be my advice for people looking into partnerships is find somebody that you trust. So
has the same values.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I will tell you this, Brad and I went to a conference. Well, all four of us, like our spouses, we went to this conference a couple weekends ago. And really the greatest quote that came out of that was, purposeful paths are not meant to be traveled alone. And I've thought about like my partnership with Brad and kind of like what our vision is for the next 10 years of business. And we're kind of sorting through what that looks like. But I think like, hey, if we're going to do something really purposeful that can help and change a lot of lives, two's better than one.
Yeah.
When it's the right one.
Yeah.
And so, he's been a huge blessing. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We fight like brother and sister. We love like brother and sister, and it works for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, going into your other partnership, your marriage, how do you balance your family life with your business life? Because obviously you're a serial entrepreneur. You've had Sheps and you've had how many businesses? I don't even know. I was just going to go down them, but yes, I know
Sheps,
3.
Blox.
Yep, Blox.
Grace,
I forgot.
the
Yes,
beef jerky company.
I didn't know that one. I didn't know the beef jerky company, but that's fun.
Yeah. So, I've been involved in like ownerships in a lot of companies. And I think as young entrepreneurs, we make that mistake. And what I've learned in the last like 2 years is I need to pick a focus and I need to put 110% into that focus. And what I've realized is I'm in the event space.
Yeah.
So anything that I do moving forward is only going to be in the event space.
That's cool.
I'm not going to like dabble here and I'm not going to dabble there and I'm not going to dabble here. And I'll tell you why. What I found in my own personal life is if I'm not 100% laser focused on one business or one
aspect.
I want to say like I mean,
Because each business is hundreds of businesses
yes,
within
yes,
itself.
that's why I'm like,
yes.
in one area,
Yeah.
it's really hard to manage for me, my family, and my business life. And so after we dissolved Sheps, Blox, I was no longer a part of Blox. That happened just a couple months after Sheps. And so I think it was interesting to kind of see how I went from working like 60 to 70 hours a week to
Plus
like,
having your kids.
yeah, plus kids, yeah, to like 2 hours a week.
Wow.
And so it was kind of a
big
drastic
difference.
change.
Yeah.
But I think and people always say like, oh, what is it like to be a mom and work?
Yeah.
I think that's like irrelevant because that's like
Interesting.
saying like somehow moms love their kids more than dads. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody that works. This applies to anybody that works. I don't care if you're a male or a female. There's no such thing as balance.
Yes.
There's not.
Yes.
But I read a book. I can't remember who wrote it, but it's called Stand Where Your Feet Are. You have to look it up.
Okay. I love it.
And it's actually a book about this guy like in sports or whatever. And I think he was a professional baseball.
Love it.
I read it a long
Love
time
it.
ago. But he talked about how he had to learn that when he was at work, it was 100% focused on work. He wasn't calling home. He wasn't texting his kids. He wasn't texting his wife. Like he was laser focused for 6 or 7 hours while he was at work. It goes back to like being efficient. We talked about that before the podcast.
Yeah.
Like I am efficient for the 6 hours that I'm at work. And then when I go home, I am 100% home. I am not answering
That's
a phone
cool.
call from my employees unless
Unless it's an emergency.
they like almost
hey.
killed someone with food poisoning, like unless it's an emergency that like they know
Yeah.
that when I'm home, I'm home.
That's cool.
And, compartmentalizing is really hard. And I learned that in order for me to be successful in both roles that I want to play, because they both are important to me, that when I'm home, I have to be home.
Yeah.
And I have to be 100% with my kids. I can't be like looking at text messages. I can't be answering emails unless they're like in bed and I have 10 minutes or whatever that looks like. And then when I'm at work, I devote my time there too. And I remember actually an employee, my very first chef that I hired, he had come to me one day and he was like, I want to tell you something and I don't want to hurt your feelings. But he's like, I don't feel like I ever get 100% of your attention. And he's like, when we sit one-on-one.
You're somewhere else.
Yeah. And he was like, don't look at your phone. Don't like be writing things down. Can you just give me 100% of your attention? And it really bugged me
Yeah.
that he felt that way because that wasn't my intention.
Yes.
Right? Like
Of
our
course,
intention
of
isn't to be
course.
like, hey, yeah, like talk to me. I'm going to text on my phone. Like, I'm listening. We're not thinking like, hey, I'm being a total
jerk.
No. We're just like, oh, I'm multitasking. Like,
Yes.
I'm being efficient.
I'm good at multitasking.
Yeah.
They're going to see how hard I'm working
Yes.
if I send this text during our meeting.
Yeah, but
They're
what I
gonna care,
realized
yeah.
was that he actually took it that I wasn't being respectful of his time.
Yes.
And so I had to change. And I realized that with my own kids, that I had to create the same love and the same respect that my employees wanted, my children wanted. And when I made that change, I made little changes. Like I never look at my phone on Sundays.
Oh, that's cool.
It's just like turned down.
That's cool.
And it's one day that like
Yes,
I
you
can
just-
devote 100% of my time and attention to my
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
And so I think there's little things that we can do to create like quote unquote balance. But I think it's not necessarily balance in terms of time. It's balance in terms of our energy and our attention. Because when you're a scatterbrain, I trust me, I have been a scatterbrain. I probably was a scatterbrain for 8 years of my career. Just like all over the place, like a Tasmanian devil. Like
Yes.
I gotta be here and I gotta be there and I gotta run
Yes.
here and like
Well, and I think a lot of that comes from catering.
Yeah.
You have, do you have something cooking? You
Yeah.
have something else that you're chopping up. You have to make sure that you're paying attention so it doesn't burn I think you have to be all over. But I think transferring into a business aspect can be detrimental to the business.
Yeah.
If you have that catering brain or that, what makes you a good chef maybe doesn't make you as much a good business owner. And that's a different change. Okay, we're going to wrap up. I'm going to ask just a few more questions.
Okay.
I love it. Okay, So now that you're focused on the venue, what is it that you absolutely love about working in that space? And what keeps you excited every day?
Yeah. So I talked to Ellie this morning about this actually, because we were talking 5 to 10 year goals for her.
Fun.
And we were talking about her talents and what my talents are and how we use them together.
Yeah.
And what I have found with Riverbridge that was the missing link in bringing me fulfillment that Sheps had brought was I met with every single client with Sheps. Every single
cool.
one. That was one role I was not willing to give away.
Yeah.
Because I love personal connection.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
And so what we have found with Riverbridge is I do tours on Saturday mornings.
Oh, fun.
Just once a month.
Yeah.
Saturday mornings once a month from like 7 to 10 a.m. And I come home so fulfilled. so
cool.
fulfilled. And it's because that's what I need.
Yes.
I need personal connection.
Yeah.
I need to be able to like love people. I need to be able to walk them around the venue and help them see and envision what their wedding's going to be like there, what their experience is going to be like. I want to hug them. I want to give them their little gift. And I want to be like, book Riverbridge, but not with me because I'm terrible at selling something. I want to give everybody a discount. So I'm going to pass you off.
Same.
So that's what makes me excited right now is it's just growing so much.
Yeah.
And it's allowing me to still have connection to clients, which is really what brings me fulfillment in business.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, what's next on the horizon for you?
I know. Who knows?
I know.
So, yeah. So because I own a venue, I built out a software because there literally is no software out there that is specifically designed for venues. There's like onesie twosies that do a couple things here and there, but we're working out of 4 or 5 different softwares to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's got to be a better way. And so we took all of our systems, all of our procedures of like what we were doing and put them into a software. And so,
Awesome.
we launch next week. I'm so pumped.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's the name?
Venue Nest.
Venue Nest.
Yeah, because it's like a nest, it's all inside.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's crazy.
Oh, that's so cool. And I love it. I love this will be your next little project and going for it. And
Yeah.
From what I hear, it's been really successful already.
Yep.
We've already been practicing it within your own company. So we're excited for the launch and we'll be there supporting you. So
I appreciate it.
yeah. So thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to Weddings Unwrapped. And if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a review. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and please share. We will be back next week with another inspiring story. Until then, keep chasing your dreams, and that is a wrap.
Peace.